Hello and welcome to the next video of my World's 2022 preview series where we're going to cover the top lane 24th through 1st. Unlike the top 5 list you see everybody else do where they say the top 5 and then they give you like, oh, well, this person was close, this or that. I'm going to do all 24 because I tend to do things a little over the top compared to everybody else. I just enjoy doing a thorough job. Down in the description, you see 3 links: Twitter, Discord, and YouTube memberships. Twitter, follow me there. That's self-explanatory. Discord, join us. There's nearly 300 of us now, and we're talking about League the majority of the time. And then YouTube memberships, $3 supports me. You get a little badge in the comment section. Keeps the channel alive. $10 also will keep the channel alive, but you also get extra content. Later today, I decided that I would do the video later today, or at some point, after this video is done. My NFL fantasy football rankings, you get that in an extra video, as well as my predictions for winners and losers. I am not doing as well as I would like when it comes to against the spread and over-unders. Both under 50-50 right now, actually. So if you don't want that, then you don't have to, pay that. But keep in mind, my League of Legends predictions are also going to be extra content as well. So when I have, the schedule is just announced. When I go over the schedule for the next day, I'm just going to tell you, the games and, some brief stuff about it, like historical facts and things like that about the teams. And then in the extra content, the extra video that I'll do after that would be who I think is going to win the game. So now that that's all out of the way, we have our top 24 here. Got the 24 players. Keep in mind, minor region players, I didn't watch all their games. I only watched some playoff series, so we have to take that with a grain of salt. But the major region players, I've watched quite a bit, and if I have watched a player before, I will specify that when I'm going over them. I also am going to give you 3 champions they played that were not played really by the majority of the people on the list. 3 kind of unique picks. I mean, most of them multiple people picked. Some of them you're going to be like, wow, that was like most people played that. And it's like, well, actually, compared to the meta, not as many people played that champion as you may think. So, yeah, that's a deal. That's the deal here. 24th. Now, I didn't really organize my markers at all before this, which is going to be a pain in the ass for everybody involved. 24th is Starscreen from Istanbul Wildcats. I don't think I want to, it's one of those things where he's dead. In-game, he's dead. You just don't stop it. Stop it. Stop kicking him when he's down. Not a big fan of his. Akali and Shyvana are 2 picks that he picked that not every majority of people on the list actually played this past split. I only did Summer on Games of Legends, which I believe also includes their playoff runs, so keep that in mind. But Starscreen's definitely 24th. He is not great by any means. Not too high on him. 24th is ADD. The Korean import with Isurus Gaming of Latin America. He has struggled. His numbers looked awful. He has kicked around. I remember when he played for MVP in the LCK. He's played for BLG in the LPL. So he has some, major region experience. And maybe that'll boost him up a little bit in this when he's against better players and maybe getting slightly better scrims. But regionally and domestically, he struggled. He struggled a lot. He played Rumble, Azir, and Shen this past split. 3 champions, not majority of players played it on this list. Like, I think Rumble comes up again, but he might have been the only person to pick Shen and Azir on this list. I know the Shy played Azir once. Dove obviously played it, but they're not at this tournament, right? So, will he pull out an Azir? I think it's a counter into Gangplank, so if someone picks a Gangplank, maybe he picks Azir, and you're like, what the hell is this? Now you'll know. He's done it before, he might do it again, right? Next is Topoon from Chief Esports, another Korean import, I believe. Topoon, definitely a weak side top laner and not a great one at that. He's on a very, very good team, but I don't think he's got much for over the top. He's not going to win you games. I don't think he is. I think when I've seen him in the past, he's kind of just like been there and also been a liability at worst. So at best, he's just there. At worst, he's losing them the game. He picked Kennen and Vlad this past split, where Kennen, you're going to say, wow, a lot of people played Kennen. Well, not really, actually, on this list. Relative to the rest of the champions picked, Kennen was one of the lesser picked champions, and Vlad was only picked by like a handful. So, Topoon Vlad might be an option, right? Next, I have Laikai from Beyond Gaming, and you're going to be like, oh, well, the PCS, and is Laikai going to play or Liang going to play? I don't know. I think they're going to bring both, and they might go back and forth. But Laikai is the one that played the majority of the games throughout summer, so he's the one on the list. Fiora, Silas, and Aurelia. It's a tough thing because I know I watched a little bit of them against PSG and things like that. I believe they played PSG, right? They did, and they lost to Flying Oyster, played PSG, lost to Flying Oyster again. But against Rest, very, very sus. Not good. So, that is the thing. Beyond Gaming, honestly, I'm not a big fan of the PCS this time around. I know PCS fans don't like that, but I really don't think that they're up to where they've been the last couple years. Maybe they'll surprise, but I don't think it's coming from the top lane and Laikai. 20th, another minor region jungler, top laner is Eevee from Detonation Focus Me. I was preparing secondary videos for this upcoming week, and one of them was like oldest and youngest players, and going over this might be their last run, and Eevee is on that list. He's like 27 years old, and I was surprised by that, but if you think about it, he's played so much international competition, 27 makes sense, right? And he plays a lot of weird stuff, that's without a doubt. Tryndamere, Lilia, and Vladimir. So he pulled out the Lilia. He's pulled out the Tryndamere. We know him for his Mordekaiser and his Urgot. So those are two champions also that that he might play, that others not so much. I didn't mention Laikai, Fiora, Silas, Aurelia. Silas and Anar being an option. Aurelia, Fiora. Skill-based champions. Maybe if he's willing to pull those out, we're going to have a mismatch in lane where we have weak side top laners that don't pick it versus, top laners that are willing to go, okay, well, we want to go split push with a Fiora, a Jax, things like that. And those players I prefer over the ones that are going to play Ornn and Gragas and these weak side top laners that are like really just like, oh, look, they're so great weak side. And it's like, yeah, but that's all they really offer. So, Eevee, 20th. I love the champion pool. I can't deny that. I love it. But he's also older, and does he still have the hands? Well, we're going to find out, right? Next is Robo from Loud. So what I've gotten from the fans of Loud is that this guy is coin flip, pretty much. And if you're coin flip domestically, I'm afraid to say, but you are no longer, I think, flipping a coin at an international event, but you're rolling some dice. And you're saying to yourself, okay, 1 out of every 6 games am I going to go off? Because this is not CB Lull. This is not Latin America. This is not Turkey. This is an international event. You cannot coin flip an international event as a minor region player. You have to perform your best every game. Otherwise, you're going to struggle. It's not going to go well for you. But Robo played Rumble, Tom Kench, and Tristana this past split. Yes, I have to say, probably one of the weirder 3 unique picks we're going to see on this board. like Rumble, we've already seen. TK we saw a couple of years ago. We didn't think we'd see TK again, but Robo said let's try it. And then Tristana, which some people say, oh well, it can go into solo lane, but nobody on this list wanted to try it. Robo tried it. So, is it an option for him? I guess. More so than anyone else that didn't play him, right? 18th, the first major region top laner, and we all know who it is. It's Armut. Armut struggled so much in the playoffs and towards the end of the split. I mean, it was very bad. Getting dove left and right, losing lane. I mean, he dealt a lot of damage. I think he led Mad Lions in damage, which was a concern when we did the previews, but not good. Not good. This is probably where he ranked a couple years ago going in on the Turkish team. Honestly, it's like he's back to where he was. Because for a little while he looked like he had some potential, but it just isn't coming around. Kennen, Jax, and Jace, 3 champions not a lot of people played, which is a problem. You know, put him on the Ornn, put him on Gragas, put him on Sion and things like that and say don't die. Like, literally, that's what you have to put him on. Because right now, it is not working for him, and he is a liability for them as far as I'm concerned. 17th, we have Someday. Oh, and I want to specify something here. I have tiers in this. That's a tier. I think Someday is much better than Armut, but Someday isn't better than the other players on the board here. He's Akali, Silas, Malphite. I did not like the Malphite game at the end of the split at all. His willingness to play it, though, is a good thing because he played against Summit a lot in spring, which stopped Summit in his tracks. It's a big deal. At this international event, a Malphite, a Sion, willingness to play those champions and play them well and not lose lane hard is an advantage for a team like 100 Thieves that has to play against Gen G and likely RNG, right? So, Someday, not losing lane against Doran and Breathe, or at least limiting the loss and losing with grace to have relevance in the mid to late game will be huge. You have to be respectful of these things. I kind of approach looking at this stuff like a team would, trying to respect everybody equally, because, fans disrespect players left and right, and I think it's because they are only fans and they could never, in a million years, actually play for a pro team with the attitudes they have. So, Someday, he needs to be respected. The Silas and the Nar, not a lot of players are willing to pull that out. And if they can flex Silas from top to mid like that, that's nice for them to have. That's a feather in their cap that other teams don't necessarily have. Wonder is 16th. I was not impressed with Wonder down the stretch in the playoffs. Very similar. All these guys in this group are going to be, well, most of them are pretty similar. There's one minor region guy kind of fit in there, but the majority are going to be the same. Wonder, weak side. Don't put him on Jace again. 3 champions he played that not many others did. Jace, Shyvana, J4. Don't put him on Jace. Wonder's carrying days are behind him. Younger than I thought, though. I think he's only 24, maybe 25 years old. In the 23 to 25 range. But that should be his prime, so he should be able to carry. But I just did not like the Jace looks that I got from him this past split. Very good weak side player that can definitely keep the team together, glue it, be the glue for the team. You need an AP top. He could probably play Kennen. You need an AD top. He can play Aatrox. He can do a little of everything. But I would not rely on him being a carry on a Jace. Shyvana was fun when it lasted, and J4, he was the one that played J4 on this list in top lane, and that was very bad. So the J4 goes back in the closet. That does not come back out. No one wants to see that. No one wants to see that again. 15th is Kingen. I think definitely the weakest part of DRX is Kingen, without a doubt. I'm not a fan of his. He has to play weak side champions for sure to get them through this. If he can do that, lose with grace, that's honestly going to be a good spot for them. If you can pull out the Orin, the Scion, the Gragas, I keep mentioning them because this group right here are like weak side major region top laners that I think can play the weak side champions at a high enough level that they can succeed, right? That they aren't going to be the inter on their team. Kingen played Camille, Olaf, and Lee Sin this past split. Do not play the Olaf, do not play Lee Sin at this event. Olaf was not very good when anybody played at top lane, and Lee Sin is a Rascal special, and it is not a Kingen special. Kingen is not Rascal. He doesn't get to play Lee Sin top. So, I mean, in their group, with Mad Lions, Saigon Buffalo, and RNG, it's a tough group. It's not an easy one. I think, I know DRX are respecting Saigon Buffalo and Mad Lions, and the fans should too. Because I think that's, the right approach to have. So, Kingen is in 15th. 14th, we have Hazmed from Saigon Buffalo. A better coin flipper than Robo, pretty much. From what I remember at MSI, he was pretty coin flippy. Some games he carried in top lane. He did very well. I think an Aatrox game sticks out to me maybe. But otherwise, hit or miss. Now, Hazmed played Aurelia, Akali, and Lilia this past split. So another player that was willing to play the Lilia top. Which is a pick that not a lot of people tried, but Lilia got buffed, and some people thought it was actually worth trying. We saw Shanji pick it a couple times in the LPL to mixed success, and I think that is an option that other teams don't necessarily think about. I think it's more so because the lack of AD mid options, but I think that that's a fun and interesting thing to think about. I think Hazmed is definitely a talented player, very young. Saigon Buffalo is an extremely young team. Doing my youngest players video, preparation. A very young team. EG and Saigon Buffalo are the youngest teams at this tournament. And if you took Impact out of it, they would be. Obviously, EG with Impact ends up like being older than Saigon Buffalo. But everybody on Saigon Buffalo is like 20, 18, 19 years old. Like they're all very young players. So Hazmed, fun player. I think, he's going to be fun. I really hope that, honestly, against Mad Lions, I can certainly see a world where Saigon Buffalo knocks Mad Lions out of this tournament. Without a doubt. I could see that. Top lane, 14th, 18th. I could see that. I could see it in other ways as well. Specifically, my boy Shogun in bot lane. 13th, we have Impact. Because we've seen Impact versus Hazmed before, I'm just putting Impact above Hazmed. Scion and Jax were two picks that he had this past split. They were unique. Everything else was pretty standard. Good player. This might be his last go-round. I mean, he's a free agent, I think, at the end of the year. And he's older. You're getting to a point now where, can you keep it up? Do you have the hands anymore? I mean, you can play weak side, but do you really have the hands? And with EG's emphasis on not only NA talent, Impact obviously a resident now, but, excuse me, well, yeah, I think so. I think Inspired's the only one that's not. Because Impact has played so long in North America, but just they have an emphasis on young players. You see that in jungle, mid, and AD carry. But Impact has been keeping it together. Very good weak side player. Has been a good weak side player since the beginning of his career when he won Worlds. So we have to, respect that he's been here before, and he's also held the trophy, right? More so than a lot of players in this tournament. Next, I know all these are just going to fall off. I'm really playing a dangerous game here. 12th is Odoamne. Odoamne played very good weak side this past weekend. Played very well on the orange solo killing Broken Blade. I see that. I know that. He did very well this past weekend, but we have to look at the larger, group of games here, and he didn't play overly great for a long time this split, right? The bot side of the rift with Rogue is what has carried them to this point. Odo just did very well against Broken Blade this past weekend. We look at the weekend before when he played against Broken Blade, he went 0-14 and 14. So, with that in mind, Odo is going to be here. This group, 12th through 17th, outside of Hazmet, are all weak side top laners. Really. Outside of Hazmet, who's coin flippy, Odo, Impact, King and Wonder, and Someday are all guys that I look at at this tournament and say you need to play weak side like really good to do okay in this tournament. I don't want to see him on carries. Odo's only weird pick was Zac. Everything else was pretty standard. The Sejuani, Nar, Gwen, things like that. Everybody picked for the most part. So Odo only picked Zac as a weird pick. So, but I think people have to keep in mind, 2 weeks or the week before he had finals and semifinals, he looked awful. So respect. Next here on this list, we have Kiea. Someone help me pronounce it, but I said I was going to look at it, and I didn't before I started this video. It's too late now. Kiea from GAM Esports. Good player. Looked good against Hazmet for sure. I guess is better than actually what I saw, apparently. So we'll put him in the tier above, a guy that could possibly be a difference maker for GAM Esports at this event. Can maybe get them an opportunity in Group C against a guy like Odoamne. Maybe that's a thing. He could take advantage of Odo in top lane and go off. I guess his Aatrox is really, really disgusting. Some weird picks he had was Jax and Camille. Jax isn't very weird, neither is Camille. We've seen them before, but not a lot this past split. So, a guy that will take those skill-based champions, go in the side lane, and try and force the lane down your throat. So, good player, and definitely somebody I want to watch. And then 10th, we have Rest. Another minor region top laner. I have him as the highest rated minor region top laner. From Flying Oyster, his 2v1 on Gnar has a lot to do with this. That was a great play. I only saw a couple series of him, so when a play like that sticks out, it sticks out. He played Aurelia, Mordekaiser, and Wukong in top lane this past split, so we have to keep that in mind that CFO may be willing to flex the Wukong around. Something I'm surprised Mad Lions never tried with Armit, because Armit's Wukong is what was a major thing for him. Coming in, I remember his Wukong being a reason why he even got the look he did to get onto Mad Lions. So, Rest definitely can carry in top lane. And see on CFO in the group that they're in with Gen G and 100 Thieves, I could see him beating 100 Thieves, and then RNG. RNG will be tough, but I could see that being a difference in top lane. In that group if things go as not expected, but they go, you know what I'm talking about. 9th, we have Broken Blade. I remember a lot of G2 fans got very upset with me because I had Broken Blade behind Impact at MSI, and clearly I have righted that. They're not together. They're not even in the same tier. Broken Blade, Aurelia, Yone, Fiora. So, side lane champions. His Yone is something that sometimes, he's picked more than I thought he would. Becoming definitely a notable pick that I feel like other teams are going to take note of. Damwon could honestly put Birdall in there and say, we're not banning the Yone. Are you going to pick the Yone into Birdall? Maybe. Or vice versa. Something interesting to think about. But, he lost bad to Odo. He really did. And like I said, he beat up on him the week before. So now we're looking at a situation where, which one are you? I think G2 just missed the boat. I think that they are better than what finals was for them. I think that they're better than Rogue if you watch my power ranking video. Sorry about the cat in the background. But Broken Blade is what I have Broken Blade 9th. I have him 9th. I think that he's good. One of the best in the West, but the best in the West is Fudge from C9. We compared both. Well, it went G2 and C9 in my previews, right? And we went over the top lane specifically and how Broken Blade had KP that didn't reflect the CS and vice versa, where Fudge's did. And we're like, well, Fudge is actually fighting more than BB. He's dealing a lot more damage than BB, and he's getting more farm than BB. So what is going on here? Fudge played Tryndamere, Sion, and Ken in this past split. He can play anything. His champion pool is one of the deeper ones at this event. He played more than most people this past split. And honestly, I think that he is capable of losing lane with grace and being relevant in the late game, as well as beating top laners that take their foot off the gas, which I think is something we have to keep in mind and take note of. A very good player, very young player, still, I believe, only 20, 21 years old. So he's got to take the next step, though. That's another thing that we mentioned in the C9 video, that he needs to take the next step. So Fudge is there. Just 1 second. Okay, now for the next one, 7th place, we have Nuguri. Nuguri, we don't know what's going to happen with this team. I think he's better than Fudge for sure. But at the same time, I do not believe that, I don't know if Damwon's going to play him all the time. They might play Birdall. In Birdall, I'd probably put probably in this tier, 12th through 17th. Not a big fan of his. All he really can do is the Yone, which I think people have almost admitted from Damwon that they're like, yeah, we play him because he can play different champions, and all he's picking is Yone. So Nuguri, obviously a notable name. He played some Sion, Mordekaiser, and Camille this past split. Camille had been buffed over the last couple patches, so if Camille becomes a thing at this event, I could see Nuguri really going off. But that's, take that for what you will. I don't think he's the same player he was in the past. That's why he's in this tier and not higher. I think that as long as they keep splitting scrims in top lane, it's not going to go well for Damwon. I really don't. I don't like when teams do that. I keep saying it. I don't. And some people say, well, SKT did it. Fnatic did it. SKT won, but Fnatic didn't. Could Fnatic have won if they didn't split scrims? It's a story we'll never know, right? 6th place, we have Wayward. And this is where people are going to start getting upset, because these are like, oh, I've seen this pundit say this, or this former pro player say this top 5, this or that. Wayward's not in your top 5. He's been in other people's top 5s. Why is he in yours? Well, specifically watching the JDG series again, I've watched it 3 times now. I watched it when it happened. I've watched it when Doublelift watched it, and I watched it when LS has watched it. Wayward overextends in lane. Wayward struggles at times when he's not on carries. Him and the next player that's on the list, spoiler, are very similar in this regard. They are young, they are inexperienced. This event is going to be a wake-up call. Are they going to show up? Who knows? They are this good. They are this good if, well, I mean, they are this good against players that are going to be below them. I think that Wayward is going to have his way with Otawamne and Kiea. I think that that's going to happen. And even when Wayward ends up playing Kingen, if Kingen gets out, he's going to have his way with him too. Those three top lane. Kiea is if he picks, like, I could see Wayward and him having to duke it out, depending on how draft goes and things like that. But he has the advantage. He definitely has the advantage. Jax, Jace, and Yone, 3 picks that he picked that not many others did. Wayward is a carry-oriented top laner, still a young player, and hasn't quite grasped the second part of the game. 5th, we have Zeus. Originally, I had Zeus 4th, Wayward 5th, and the next person 6th. I think they're all very close for different reasons. I don't think that there's a gap there at all. Zeus is one-dimensional, only can play carries just like Wayward, but is better than Wayward, right? I think that this is the future in top lane. Have to keep that in mind. Next year, if they can both get to Worlds, big deal. Jax, Zach, and Yone are 3 picks that Zeus played that not many others did. Good player. He's going to take advantage of, we have 3 of what I consider the top 8 top laners in Group A. Who's else is going to be there? Probably Fnatic, right? So Wonder is going to be the odd man out. But Zeus, not much really to say. I think that I said it all with Wayward, and it's pretty much the same thing. He's got to learn how to play weak side to take to the next level of this tournament. Now, stipulation. If the meta changes, which we've seen some theories that the meta could shift from bot to top, if the top lane becomes a carry-oriented meta, Zeus and Wayward are going to be disgusting, and they're going to be ahead of who I have next and here. They're going to be better for sure than 3rd and 4th, and they're definitely going to be in the conversation for 2nd. That is definitely going to be the case. And that would completely change the landscape of this event in terms of predictions and who would win, in my opinion. 4th place, we have Doran. Another one-dimensional player. He can play weak side very well. He's played weak side a long time. He benefits from having 2 great players. If you didn't hear me, he benefits from having 2 great players. I think that if I'm in opposition and I look at Gen G and I look at top or not top. Top are like Gen G. But if I look at Gen G and I compare it to T1 and I am going against them, I say, screw Doran. I'm leaving him, let him do whatever the hell he wants. I'm more worried about Chovy and Ruler, which is going to allow Doran to do whatever he wants. It's going to allow his stats to look good. That's going to allow his matchups to look good. Whatever. When I look at T1, I say to myself, Faker isn't really doing all that much anymore. Guma is on struggle street, so really the threat is Zeus. So I'm going to go top lane, and I'm going to affect Zeus. At least that's what I think teams should be doing. Whether they did that or not is beside the point, but that's the way I look at it. So Doran, weak side, very, very good player. He's played weak side for a long time. He knows how to do it. Akali, Akshan, and Cal are 3 picks that he picked this past split that not many others did. His Akshan was very early on in the split, as was the Cal. But pretty standard player. He's not going to hurt Gen G, which is why Gen G right now are my number 1 team in the power rankings. Because when he's on his own island over there, he can just kind of do his thing. That's why you can just play on an island, lose with grace if he has to lose with grace, and benefit from not having a lot of pressure. There is no pressure on Doran to really do well with this team compared to other players on his team. And this is their own group. I think these are all one-dimensional players that do their job extremely well. 3rd place is Flandre. He's won the big dance. He's won the big dance. He does well into most of his matchups. When he plays weak side, he could do it slightly better, but I think he can play carries as well. Very good player. Has been against tougher competition in the LPL than in the other three major regions, for sure. Have to keep that in mind. I think that when he is against Zeus, he's going to have action opportunity to win lane, because Zeus might have to play a matchup that he's not great at, these weak side matchups. And then against Fudge, I think Fudge and Flandre, actually, honestly, I think Fudge might be a better matchup into Flandre than Zeus even is. I think because Fudge is more used to playing every, multiple different ways in lane. Flandre played Vladimir, which is a champion he likes to play. That is a thing. The Vlad, if there is a player on this list that I think could pull out the Vlad, it's Flandre for sure. Graves did not go well, and Riven is something he picked also this past split. Second place, we have Breathe. I really like Breathe right now. I'm not going to lie, throughout all of summer, I have had an animosity towards Breathe because I'm a big Ben fan, and we know that he is taking Ben's spot. But later on in the split, seeing him pull out the Jax and the Fiora in playoffs, I respect it. I like players that are willing to do that, play those skill-based matchups and not play, the easy champs, So that's a big deal. Breathe. He can have some fun in that top lane if he can go off on those champions, especially in play-ins. Some champions that he played, Kennen, Aurelia, and Akali. We'll see if this event isn't too big for him. Luckily for him, he has play-ins, can get his feet wet at an international event before actually showing up to the big stage, which is important for play-ins. A team like C9 specifically, I'd said I wish that they had an opportunity in play-ins because I think they'd be better off for it. Lastly, 369, by far the best top laner. .369 is capable of turning weak side into winning side. He can play Scion and say, oh, I'm going to lose this matchup and win it. Very good player. Definitely the best top laner at this event. I think top lane is the weakest. Definitely the weakest lane in this tournament without Bin, the Shy, Rascal, Keen. A lot of really good top laners not here, right? Bwipo even from the west, not here. So 369, Scion, Set, and Vladimir. 3 picks that he had that not many others did. His Scion is notable. Definitely. I think JDG are in a good spot on the top side of the Rift. We do the jungle tomorrow, and Kanavi is also going to be high up on that board. So that's it for my top lane rankings. Comment down below with your opinions. Like the video if you like it. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter. Join the Discord. Become a YouTube member. And I hope you come back for more.